Hello, my name is Albert Watson, and today I'll be talking about how we can use Open Refine to clean data. So normally when we get data, these data are full with quote unquote debris, and in order to process these data into a uniform form, which is easy to analyze or which can be converted into a visual form that will be easily used to for data analysis. Yeah. So normally these debris can normally inhibit on our analysis, and as a result, we normally have to clean this data so the data will be useful for our data analysis. So OpenRefine is one of the medium or is one of the useful medium for cleaning data. So when you download and install OpenRefine and you open your OpenRefine, you get a page like this, and there are various tabs here. So this page has create project, open project, import project, and language setting. So this create project enable you to like do your data cleaning from scratch. For instance, if you have a new project and you want to work on it, there's a create project tab that will enable you to like create your project and work on it. Also, if previously we were working on any other project and you want to continue with it, you can use an open project. I'll give you the option to open project you are previously working on, so you can easily click on it. Or if you want to clear the project you are working on, you can just delete the project here. Also, the import project option enables us to import. For instance, if we are having or we are performing a project with our group mates, we can easily import their projects into our platform so that we can also edit or clean the data for the general use. Another option too is the language setting. So the by default is in English. So in case you are not conversant with English, you can easily change the language to any language you prefer, um, depending on which language you are very convenient with. So with today we'll start with a create project, or we'll be doing everything from scratch. So the create project, we'll use the create project option. So one advantage of OpenRefine is you can import your file in any form you want. It can be a TSV file, sorry, a CXV file, an Excel, it can even be a JSON, an XML file, or any other type, or even a Google data document. All these files are files that can easily be imported into Google Refine for refinery. So when the create project also have option, this is we have this computer. So this computer enables us to choose a file directly from our computer. So for instance, if the data we want to clean is inside our computer, we just go to this computer, click on choose file, then we look for the file, and we can just, so let's say if this is the data you are cleaning, we just click on it, then we press open. When we press open, you see it has been selected. So when immediately we press next, our data will be converted into this form so that we can work on it. Or another way we can do is we can input the address or the address in which the data is found directly, and OpenRefine will just open it directly for you. An example is there is a data here. So this data, you see, is associated with an address. So we can easily copy the link from there. Then we'll just paste the link here. So or you can even add another one, but let's just using the add another URL. So after you paste your link there, you just go to next, and then next it will first download the data from the URL given. Then it will upload the data. Then as you can see, we saw preview, then you can start working on your data. Another form is to use the clipboard. The clipboard enable you, for instance, here, if I had opened the data, I'd click and open the data, I would see a row, something like this, you see, which has no meaning. So one thing you can do is we can just select everything here, copy, and just paste it to this place, the clipboard here. So when we paste into this clipboard, then we press next, Google Refine will automatically upload the data, which was very scanty initially, and it will form these fine tables as you can see here. Or another way to is you can use a database using an SQL. You can easily upload the data from a database that directly then work on it. Or you can even use a Google data. So in this case, you can import it by giving the URL here, then it will do it. Or you can even sign in. So when you sign in, you can easily access your data directly in your Google Drive. So there are various ways of uploading your data into OpenRefine. But today, let's use the clipboard approach. So since we just copied and paste, so there's our data. So let's go to next. So now, immediately you create your project. This part is project name. This part enable you to like create or give a name to your project. So for instance, if your project is called 20, like for instance, if I'm giving maybe my ID or the name of my project is my ID or my student ID or something, or any ID you can think of it, I'll just post my ID here. Then I can add any tags I want to add. I don't know the essence of this, but I can add the tags. And normally, and also this space here enable you to perform or to pre-perform some certain function before you even create your project. So you can convert your project. You see, initially it's a CXV, which is a comma separate. So the columns are separated by commas. You can also do it tabs. So you see, anytime you click on it, it changes. So you see, there's a tab separated from if you click on. So this space here enable you to preview your data before you can create before you create a project. If I click the tab TSV, we did that in. If I click the custom, depending on what I want to customize it, I can put it there. And also this part, yeah, use character to enclose the cell containing column separator. Another function that is normally advisable is the trim leading or trailing white spaces. So normally strings are very sensitive, or blank spaces or white spaces are considered members of a string. So if I have like two strings that are even equal and I even have one white space before or after the string, anything that's within the string will consider these things as two separate things. Yeah. So normally it's advisable to trim these leading white spaces in order to like decrease our error before we can even create a project. And also there are also other functions here which you can explore and see what they do to your file. Also, yeah, things here about JSON file, about 9-bit text file and stuff. So when you are done with everything and you think you are satisfied with what you are seeing, you can just directly go and create your project. So the Google Refine will now convert all what you have done into a suitable format that will enable you to do your so after everything has been processed, you will see a windows like this. So here is a facet of filters. Yeah. So whatever you filter here, it will appear here so that you can select them and easily perform certain function on it. And this undo redo enable you to like undo things, and this enable you to like or gives you the option to make more mistakes, because we learn by making mistakes. And the undo redo enable you to go back in case you think the function you applied on it wasn't that necessary. You can just use the undo redo function to just go back to your previous step. We'll look into it very soon in this video. And also there are these rows. So this shows we can show our data or our table as a row form or as a record form. So the row is different from the record. So the record is just like the individual information here. So we see. So in this case, the number of rows is the same as the number of record. But there are some certain instances, rows of one column can be split into 2 or 3. We'll look into those things later in this video. So there might be instances where the number of rows is not equal to the number of records. Yeah, and also this is the show function. So this show function enables us to select the number of rows you want to view at a particular time. So if you want to view 5 rows, we can use the 5. So you see only 5 of the rows are showing here. And also if I want to, let's say I've seen the first 5 rows, I want to move to the next 5 rows, I just have to click this next here. So the next will take me, if I click again, it will take me to the next 5 rows. And if I want to go to the last row, I just click on last here, and the last here will take me to my last row. If I want to go back to my first row, I just click on it. Also, if maybe I don't need this tab here, this facet folders and undo, I don't need it for a moment, I can just close it so that I'll get more space to view my data. Or if I click here, it will bring it back so that you can, in case you want to undo or you want to look at the facets or filters you've selected, you can just look at it here. So also they show 5, 10, up to 1,000. You can see we can view 1,000 record at a time. So looking at the columns, you can see every column has been named or title, and there is a particular arrow here. So the arrow here also contains some functions which will help us in editing our data. So when we click on the arrow here, we can see facets, text filter, edit cell, and so on. So the text facet, if we want to like see all the various facets in let's say in this row, we can just use the text facet. For instance, in this language row, for example, if we want to see all the different languages that are found in the language row, we can just click on the language and go to the facet and go to text facet. One thing about OpenRefine is that all things you have in your cells or all things you have there in your cells are in string format. So they are normally text or string. Yeah, so if they were in a numeric facet, we would have used a numeric timeline facet, scatter plot facet. Yeah, but since we just want to see the various languages there, we can just use the text facet. So when we click on the text facet, we'll see something like this. So initially it was on the undo redo. So we just have to move to the facet filters. So we can see EN English, and you see another English, EX, maybe Espanol, French, and blank. So you see the text facet has divided all our info into English and stuff. So also we can sort these things using the count or the name. And also there's a cluster here which we'll deep deeply into it later in this video. So we can sort these words based on the name or the count. In this case, EN has more count than all of them, so it will be on top. But if there was a case where the EN was more than, or the EN was less than any of them, it will just go back to to it, and it will just sort it. So this is basically used for sorting. So you can see we have EN and we have English, which is basically the same thing. So there's one example of gibberish in the data. Part of them were inputted as EN, and also some of them were inputted as English. So in order to just format this or change this, you can just click on the edit. When you click on the edit, you can just rename it. You can take away the English and just put EN. So when you click on the apply, you see it converts all the English which were previously here to what EN. Yeah. So what that's one function, that's one way. So we've moved all the English gibberish to EN. And also when we click here, we can see blank spaces here. We'll later talk about how to deal with these blank spaces and stuff. So if I want to just clear this, I can just click on this. Or if I want to like minimize the page or maximize, I can click on it to do this. Or or I can just clear it so that it will go, then I'll get my initial data back. So the undo and redo, for instance, if what I have done initially, I don't want to, or I want to undo it, I just have to click here. So you see the English, which was initially converted to EN, has now turned to English again. So if you want to just redo what we did, you can just click on this and we'll redo whatever we did. So if we click on here too, we've seen face and numeric faces, custom faces and stuff. So there are a lot of these faces. So yeah. So now let's come to text filter. So text filter enable us, for instance, if we have a particular word in it and we want to like identify that particular word in, let's say, the column, and we want to like maybe do some editing on that word or the word inside the table, we can just go to the text filter. So the text filter, what if, let's say, I need EN, EN. When I just press EN, it will give me all the columns with EN. Let me increase the number of, so you see, it gives me all columns with only EN. That's because I only use that text. So let's say if I want column with, let's take any random name, let's say Flavia. So let's see something. So Flavia. Yeah, so Flavia is not in that row. You see, I selected a language row, there's no Flavia in it. So if I had gone to the, sorry, let me clear this first. If I had gone to the outer row and I had done the test test filter, and I click and I use the Flavia. Flavia, you can see it has shown me all the rows with Flavia. So there's a Flavia here, there's another Flavia here. If you see this one, I typed it directly as, let's say if I had changed this F to a small f, let's see what happened. If you change this to small f, you can see that still it's showing as a Flavia. So this case sensitive, if maybe I want to distinguish between a Flavia starting with a capital letter and a Flavia starting with a small letter, then you can use, for instance, some of these names in your rows or in the column you are dealing with, some of the names are in small letters, and you want to change all these names into capital letters because they are proper nouns, and proper nouns start with capital letters. So in that case, you can use case sensitive. So the case sensitive will select it based on whether there's a lowercase or uppercase in it. So since we made it case sensitive, then so that's why we didn't see anything there. Also, there's a regular expression here which we can use. So if we have not made it case sensitive, you see the Flavia will open. You can also use a regular expression to do other things. So as usual, we can clear this to get back our initial data. So if we click on this row, so it's just the same thing. There's also, we will see an edit cell. So if you click on the edit cell, you see a transform, command transform. So this transform enable you to like transform your column into maybe something you want to. Let's take this outer column. You see most of these artists are separated by a vertical line. Unless you want to edit your data in such a way that the names of these artists should be separated by a comma or even a column, you can easily just use the edit cell, come to the transform, and you input some code here. So there are a lot of code or language you can use. You can use the general refined expression language, or you can use Python or Jython or Clojure. Yeah, or let's say if you had performed a previous function on one of your rows in one of your project, you can just come to history, then you use all your function or the previous function you had used already, which you can see, and you just apply it there, or anything. Or even if you want to know about the functions involved in this specific language or any other language, you can just click on the help, and the help will give us all the function or yeah, all the function or all the steps that we can use to achieve whatever you want to do. So let's go to the preview. The preview enables you to see. So this is the actual data, and the preview enables you to see what will go on after you apply your thing to it. So if let's say I have this value and I want to convert this vertical line into horizontal line, what I'll just do, one simple thing I can just do value dot, then I'll just replace one of the function. So I just replace my vertical line with let's say if I want to separate them with a comma, so comma, and let's say you want to add more space, comma, then yeah. So you see now, you see initially the rows were separated with vertical line. Now you can see the names being separated by a comma. So if you just click OK, so immediately you click OK, you can see that all the artists, their name has been separated with what? A comma instead of the vertical line which we saw initially. So yeah, so that's one advantage. And yeah, you see this, we just made a lot of changes. We just one line argument and just one click. Yeah. Also, so when we come to the edit cell, we can also see command transform. So the command transform, so you see there we have trim, leading, and trailing white space. We don't need this function here because before creating our project, we had checked the box that which enable us to trim this leading and trailing white space. So although you can do it, but it won't create, you see, 0 cells transform. So it won't do anything to it because initially, before even creating a project, we have done that to it. Another way you can do is so the command transform, another one too is collapse consecutive white space. So for instance, in some ways, instead of single white space, there might be an error in which like they'll put a double or even a triple white space. So this one enable you to remove all those double or single white spaces there. Yeah, so that's the function of that common transform. It's removing that conservative, so that if maybe there are two white spaces, it will remove it to leaving maybe one white space. And also there's an escape HTML entity here. So what this thing happening and what the function of this is, like some of these letters, like in French letter E apostrophe, some of these characters are stored, can be stored or are stored as HTML entities. And as a result, when you see them, you see them in a form of a code, or a code like a mixture of letters or alphabet or even symbols. So these things are HTML entities. So when you click on the unescape, what happened is that all these HTML entities will be converted back into its original form. So if it was the E with apostrophe, when you click, and it has been represented by the HTML entities, when you click this, it will convert everything back to our E with apostrophe. So we can also replace smart code with ASCII here. There's a function. We can also convert that row into a title case. So maybe if you want to convert it into a title case, we can use this. Or let's say if during that you want the name of the artist to be very visible because they wrote this research project, you can just convert everything to uppercase. So in that you just come to common transform, then you come to upper cases. So you can see all the names here which were previously in maybe a mixture of uppercase and lower cases have now been converted to upper cases. Another thing too, if maybe I want to convert them to lower cases too, I can come to edit cell, common transform, then I'll go to lower case. So in that case, you see everything here has been converted to what? A lower case. Another thing we can do here. So uppercase. So as usual, we have an undo and a redo. So in case we want to remove or want to go back to our previous step, you can just use our redo or undo option to just go back to our previous thing or the previous table we had. Also, when we click on it, apart from the transform cell, we can also convert to numbers or to date or to text. So you see, this date here is actually in a string form. So if you want to actually convert it to actual date, you can use the edit cell function. So you go to the edit cell, then go to the common transform, then you see to date. So there are certain options you can change to text. Or let's say everything that you want to change it to now, you can do that. Or even if you want to change it to empty strings, this option enables you to do that. So let's say you want to convert it to date. So you can see initially, let's see, initially it was in this form 101/11/2015. But when we applied it on it, you see it has now been converted. It has now been converted to like an original date. Yeah. Also, when you click on this arrow going to edit cell, we can see split multi-valued cell. So you see this one. Let's say you have these artists here, but one thing is you want to separate. Let's say Flavia, or the first name here is the main artist, and you want to separate them from the supporting artist. You can use this function to do that. So you just come here, then the common transform. We are done with the common transform here. So just come here, then yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, so maybe like you have these artists here, you want to split them into this. So we are done with the edit cell. Actually, we are done we are done with the edit cell. We've thought, okay, edit cell. We are now we've done common transform, fill down, blank down. We'll talk about them later. So let's go to the split multi-value cell. So maybe you want to split, as I said initially, you want to split the artist into the main actor and supporting actor. So in that case, you can just use the split multi-value cell. So when you click on the split multi-value cell, you can easily like separate these artists into the main artist and the supporting artist. So we can just do this by simply clicking on the split multi-value cell. When you click on the split multi-value cell, they ask you for the separator you should use. So you can, so you see in this case, the separator is a comma. So we can just use the comma to just split them. Yeah, so or or this, let's say if you want to split the artist so that each row will show like each alter, that's the essence of this split multi-value cell. So when we specify the separator here and we just click OK. So there are other things you can do here. We can also split it by fold length. In that case, you just use the numbers there to do it. So, but since here we just have the separator, we can just use the separator as a stick to separate it. So when you just click on OK, you can see that all the artists you see, initially the artists were separated by a comma, but when we perform that function, you see all the artists have been separated by what, a column. So we can see each individual artist there. So now let's see. Now you see more rows has been added to it, and as a result, there will be a difference between the number of rows and the number of records. So you see, we have 101 record here. So when records, but when you click on the number of rows, you see the number of rows is now different. This is because we've created, or more row has been added to it. So this is one of the instances where the number of rows and number of columns might be different. So if this case, if we want to go back to our previous, then we can just use our undo and redo option by just clicking here to go back to our previous step. Also, so edit cell, fold down, blank down. Also, if I want to maybe join multi-valued cell, for instance, this cell, let's go back to what we have done initially. So maybe if we want to like join all these cells together, we can just come here, then you come to the join multi-valued cell. Then we specify the separator to use. So let's say you see previously we had used what, vertical line. So let's say we want to restore back that vertical line, you can just use this, then press OK. So it's all the cell has been converted to with using the vertical line as our separator. Also, previously had jumped this fold down and this blank down option. So this fold down and blank down enable us to deal with empty spaces. So for instance, if when we opened the language, we came to the test spaces, we realized there were some blank options here. Yeah. So let's say in this case, you realize that all these literatures or all these research papers were actually in English, and you want to convert everything in this blank into English. What you can do actually is one way which we've seen earlier is just edit the name. Then you just type the name to English or just EN. When you just press apply, all the blanks. So now you see the now blank spaces is now 0. So another way we can do it is to use this option. Is to use this option I'm here to talk about. So maybe we can select the English and the blank space. So if you want, so you see we've selected only English. If you want to include the blank spaces, we just have to click on this include here. So when we include it here, so what the fold down actually does is that it takes the first row, then it fills the rest of the rows with it. So let's say if I want to fill the rest of the rows there with the English, I'll just have to click on the language, then edit cell, then just fold down. So it's after filling down, you see, just like we had done previously, the blank here, which were like 15, is now 0. That means all the blank spaces has been filled down with the English. Yeah. So that's one function of the fill down. If let's say I wanted, if for instance, after one specific row, after the first row, I want everything there to be empty, I can also use the fill blank. Yeah. So the blank down. Sorry, the blank down. So when we click on the blank down, we can see that from the first row, everything here now is blank. So that's one of the functions. So depending on whatever you want to do, OpenRefine has various functions that will enable you to perform any operation you want to do. So yeah, let's clear this. We don't need this anymore. Okay, so when we still click here, the arrow, there are a lot of functions here. So edit cell, we've looked at fold down, blank down, split multi-value, join multi-value. Yeah, so cluster and edit, we'll look at this later. Like there are special properties in it, we have to dive deep. So we'll look at. So you can also see a replace option here. So what a replace does is it's enable you to find a specific word in the table, then you replace it with another word you want to do. But one disadvantage of this is For instance, if I want to replace ample with another word, so it will look for ample. And if I have another example, like if I have another word like example, you see there's ample in examples. As a result, the word in also an example will also be what replaced with it. So yeah, so the replace function. But yeah, probably there's something you want to do and you want to replace it. Or let's say okay, let's say even in the language, the en, you want to replace every en with the word English, you can also use it. Yeah, and also you can click to make it maybe case sensitive, a whole word, a regular expression. So the whole word will actually prevent the initially the problem I talked about. The whole word will make sure that it's looking for the ample as a whole word and not just ample in another way. Yeah. So that's some of the function of the find and replace, or the replace function. So when we've talked, I think we've covered everything about the edit cell. So the next one is edit column. So the edit column help us to split. So we can split columns into several columns, or we can join columns. You can add columns. So let's say let's come back to our artist. I want to like create the artist, and I want maybe to have a list of artist 1, artist 2, and artist 3. I can just come here, then when I come to the edit column, I just click on split into several columns. So it also asks me for the separator. In that case, we know that our separator is previously our comma. So we can just use our comma. Then here it asks you for split into. So if I want to split it into 3 rows, I just specify the number of rows there, and I just click OK. You see now our artist has been split into several rows. Almost. Okay, let's undo and do it again. So the artist, then we came to edit row, split into several. We use, oh sorry, the separator here is not a comma. The separator here is a vertical line. So we have to be careful with the separator you are using. So that's why we didn't see any split occurring. So when you press OK, you can see now, you see it has been separated into ATA 1, ATA 2, ATA 3, ATA 4, ATA 5. Probably I didn't I didn't specify the number it should divide into. So yes, split into. Now we have our vertical line here. I'm sorry, vertical line here. Then maybe we want to split into just 2. Maybe the main author and the supporting author. So you can just do split into 2. When you click OK, so you can see maybe our first author name will be the main artist, then the second one will be the supporting artist. So we can, if you want to change the name here, we can just use this, click here, edit column. You see, we can just rename this column. So let's say we can rename this into, let's say, main author. Okay. Okay. And also, yeah, you see, it has been changed to main, and we can also rename. If you want to rename, you can also come to edit column, then rename this column. We can also name maybe this supporting artist, supporting artist. So yeah, sorry, supporting double P, supporting artist. So okay, if I click OK, you can see now where we had artist 2 is now written was supporting artist. Yeah, so you can do a lot of things. Also, when it comes to the edit column, you see join column. So maybe I want to join, I separated it, but or maybe we have 2 columns which can be maybe combined together. We can use a join column. So it asks me which column I want to join. So maybe I can say I want to join the main column and the supporting, and this one enable me to rearrange it. So this shows that the main author should come before the supporting author, and this one is replaced with null. So yeah, if there's something, you can just replace, or you can click on skip the null to do it. Yeah, so based on that, you can, when you just do this, you just click OK. So you see now my supporting author has been formed from the main author in the support. So for instance, if I wanted to, let's undo this. If I wanted to bring it to the main author, I could have done just the same thing. So in that case, it joined it, and it's like, you see, I had clicked on the supporting author, then I had joined it. So if I wanted to join it in the main altar, I could have just clicked on the main altar, come to the edit column, then join. So in that case, when it's joining, it will join it, and whatever is happening will be placed in the main altar column. So if I wanted it to be placed in another column, I can just go to another column and do that. Yeah, so that's one of the important things of this. So also if I want to delete this row, maybe this row is not needed again and I want to delete it. So you see, when we created the main altar, there was no separator here. So let's go back to see how we can. So let's come here, then edit column, so join column. So there's a part that will access to separate to create. Okay, so you see the action is that separator between the content. So if we wanted to use the vertical, we can just put the vertical line here, then press OK. So you see now all the artists are being separated by a vertical line. If let's say I want to delete this, I can just come here, edit column, then remove this column. It will delete everything in that column. So you see now the supporting altar column is now gone. So the edit column, we can also add column based on this column. Yeah. So if I want to add another column based on this column, for instance, if I want to create another column with only the first artist name, one function we can use is we can split it. We can split our value with our vertical line. And we can split our value with our vertical line. Sorry, our vertical line. So when you split, what happens is that it converts this into a list. So you can see it converts the value which we had into a list with the elements in which the elements were separated by. So we can easily get either the first or the second depending on the list you are using. So we can just use 0 if we want to access the first index. So you can see Flavia is there. Or if we wanted to use the support, we can use the 2. So you see there are some errors because there's no index of 2. You see it was in the first 2, it was just 2 elements. So index 0 and index 1. So if I use 1, you can see it has taken only the second name. So if I use 0, it has taken the first name. So if I want to create a column based on this, then I just press OK. Okay, so column name. So I can write a column to be actual. Since we've used main author, I can use actual author. Actual author. So when I press OK, you see another column of actual author has been created using the column of the main author. So that's the function of creating column, like using this based on this column. We can also add column based on by fetching a UAR. Also, we'll later talk about reconciling values in it. We've already talked about renaming this column. I said we can rename this into, rename this into Arthur. So we just press OK. You see, to rename into like the main Arthur has now changed to like Arthur, or edit column. We've talked about remove column. If you want to remove it, so this part enable us to move. Let's say if I want the outer column, I want to move it to the beginning. When I click on it, you see now outer, which was the second column, has been moved to the first column. So I can just bring it back. Yeah. Or if I wanted to move edit column, if I wanted to move it to the end, so you see we can't find it here because it's at the end. So if you scroll, we can see it there. So as usual, we can undo it. We can undo it. So when we go back, you will see our other there. Or let's say if we edit column, we want to move column to the left, like so it will come to the title, or to the right. So to the right will bring it after the actual author. So based on whatever you want to do, you can just use those functions to navigate your column or to rearrange your column. Another thing you can also do is so we've basically talked about a lot of things. So now let's go to the transpose. The transpose function enables us to transpose cell across columns into a row. So this one enable if I have cells in a specific column, I can transfer, or I can change this into a row. So let's see something. If I want to like change this column into a row, I just have to click here, then I come to transpose and transpose cell into a column. So you see, it will tell me which part do I want to start from. So maybe I can start from the title, then maybe to the last column. We can select any column we want. So when we want, we can use one column. This is the option for us to use like two new columns, but I normally prefer just one column. So the one column enable you to visualize the thing well. Yeah. So it's actually to prepare the original column's name to it. If you want, you can use this function. Ignore blank cells if you want to ignore. And fill down. Let's see what the fill down do. Later, when we undo it, we'll know the difference. So when we click on fill down and we click on transpose, okay, specify name, column name. So let's call column name visualize. Yeah, just fancy name. Then when we click on the transpose, you can see, you see now, you see how it, but you see what happened? They've just transported everything. Let's undo it and let's see something. So for instance, if I wanted to do another thing, let's say transpose row into column, then maybe I want to start from the author. Maybe I want to visualize, maybe I want to have a table in such a way that I have only the article name and all the information showing. So we can use this. Let's use the fold down again in this option and let's see. So when we transpose or column name, okay, let's use the one column so that we can visualize it very well. Let's call it visualize. You can use any name you want, visualize. So when you click on transpose, so you see how it is. So it's like all the what is it is like all the thing here is being repeated, and it's because we clicked on the fill down. If we hadn't clicked on it like it, we would have seen another way. So let's use it again. Transpose. Let's click on across. Before we forget, let's put our name there as usual. Visualize, and yeah, now we will not click the fill down. Let's just transpose. So you see, we'll get a nice table. So a journal, the name of the journal, and all this information here, which you call. So even the name you could have called it, but information. So we can change it here or something. Yeah. So you see, we'll get a very nice table of every journal and its information, which is somehow nice, or which is very good for visualizing. Another thing is that you can see the transpose cells into rows. So what happens is that when you click on this, it will take a cell and like it. When I have two cells, it will give this the next cell to another column. Let's click on it and see what happens. So if you click on this, it will ask you that the number of rows to transpose. So let's say if you want to transpose two of the rows. So if you click on OK, you see. So you see the information which was here has been transposed to there, or the information which was here has been transposed to here. The information which was here has been transposed to there. So let's go back to how our thing is. So let's click here, transpose cell into column. Okay, so you see information here we've created a new row, and the info here has come here. The info in the next one has come here. The info in the next one. So if we had selected 2 or 3, the same thing would have happened. So let's redo it and let's come back again. So let's do this. Transpose into column. If you select 3, so in that case, the subsequent 3 cells will be converted into a new column. So you see the subsequent 2. This is 1, 2, 3. So you see they've removed everything here and they've created a new 2 column for there. So this is actually based on how you want to do it. Maybe there are some data that might involve doing something like this, so you can edit it well. So based on whatever you want to use your data for, there are a lot of options available for you to use. So as you can come back to this, then we'll do that. Also, we can click, we've talked of transpose. So sort. So let's say if I want to sort everything here based on the artist name, I can just use the sort. So the sort, we can sort by number, text, something. Also, we can arrange this. So this means valid values will come first, followed by errors, followed by blanks, or we can even bring the blanks before errors, yeah, or errors before blank, depending on. And this one is if you want to arrange from A to Z or Z to A. Okay, so let's click on Z to A and see. When you click on OK, you can see that everything here has been arranged from Z. You see, from Z going. If you want to like invert it, there's also a nice function here called reverse. So you see, it has been sorted from Z to A. If you want to reverse it, we just click on the reverse. So now when we click on the reverse, you can see it has now been sorted from A to what? To Z. Or even if you want to remove the sort, and if the sorting wasn't necessary, you can just click on the remove to remove the sorting we had done initially. Also, there's this thing called view. So the view just enables us to select or to enable us see our data. So maybe if this column, like for instance, we are finished with this date and we don't want to maybe see it again, we can just collapse this column. So you see when you collapse, you see the date is not there. So one advantage of this is that maybe the column you're working on, it will give you more space to see them or more space to visualize it and work on it. So if you just want to bring it back, you can just click here to bring it back. Or let's say if another thing is you can also collapse all other columns. Let's say I'm working on only these outer columns and I want to collapse every other column so that I can only view the outer column. I can just click on it, then I'll collapse all other. So you see, right now I can see only the outermost column. I can't see any other column. So if I click on it, it will come back. Or even if I hadn't clicked on it, I could have just clicked here again, come to view, then expand all columns. So when you click on the expand all column, you can see now I'm viewing all other columns. Or I can also collapse to the left. If I want to collapse everything to the left, you see everything to the left of it. Let's see, yeah. So you see everything to the left of the outer has been collapsed. I can also click here to bring it back. Or if I want to collapse everything to the right, I can also use the view. Then I'll collapse everything to the right. So you see everything to the right of this has been collapsed. Also, so the opposite function is the expand. We can expand, or we can also expand all columns to the left or all columns to the right. So since we had collapsed to the right, we can just use the expand to the right to bring what we had initially back. So we've talked about edit cell, we talk of edit columns, we talk of transpose, view, reconcile. So actually, the function of the reconcile is like to compare the data we have in our table with another data in maybe a data source or something. So the data source can be Wikipedia. So reconcile actually help us to, like, as you can see, a fixed spelling or variation in proper name. It can also help us clean up manual enter subjects headings against authorities such as library and what. It can also enable us to link our data to existing data sets. Also, it can enable us to add to an editable platform such as Wikipedia or all that. So if you click on the reconcile and you click on start reconciling, you see there's something here called the Wikidata reconcile. So if you want to maybe reconcile it, you can click on it and maybe do it depending on whatever you want to do. Yeah, and also yeah. So we've basically touched on everything. So the last thing we didn't touch on was the clustering. So for instance, let's take this. So the clustering actually, like if you want to group all the elements in a column into a subgroup or want to see how like these elements are clustered, then the clustering enables us to do that. So when we came to the edit cell, then we saw something like cluster and edit. So in this case, there is no cluster there. Okay. So let's say let me go to this facet and see. You see the license. There is blank. Okay, let me not use. Okay, let me use the publisher. Let me cluster the publisher. Let me clear this and cluster the publisher. Probably I might find some. So there are two ways of doing the clustering. You can click here, come to the edit cell, then you come to cluster and edit. Or another thing is you go to the facet. When you go to the test facet, then you come to cluster. So you see here there's MDPIHG, and here there's MDPIHG. So using probably there's a conservative white space here that's leading to the difference. So what the cluster normally help us or actually help us to identify these variations in the name, so that maybe we can combine them together, or we can convert the other name to a new name altogether. So when you click on the cluster, you see the cluster has identified what the MDPAG and stuff. So there are various ways of doing the clustering. We have clustering by key collusion and clustering by nearest neighborhood. So even the clustering by nearest neighborhood, there are other algorithms. You can use this one, or the PPM algorithm. And also when we go to the key collusion, there's a lot of, we have the fingerprint, the n-gram fingerprinting. So all of these clustering have various algorithms, and they also have various ways in which they identify differences between words or difference between strings. So I think the fingerprint is more sensitive, or is more able to detect. But the problem is that difference a fingerprint might detect, maybe this key function might not detect, or even something this key function might detect, the fingerprint might not detect. So to just read more about this keying function, you can just click here. You see there's a hyperlink here. When you click here, find out more, can just read more about this clustering and how it is done. So when you come here, so when you click on this, you can see this is a URL to the user manual. Also, if you want exactly like the clustering edit, when you click here, to take you to information regarding the clustering edit. So you can see here we have more information about the fingerprint, about the n-gram. So you can see the fingerprint is least likely to produce false positive. So what the fingerprint does, it fixes white space into single space. So then it will now put all uppercase letter into lowercase. And it will now remove all punctuation, let's say comma, full stop things, and then it will remove accent from the character. So doing all these things later, then it will now identify that, oh yeah, this name resembles this. So for instance, let's say this Zaini Wang. I don't know, yeah, typically, yeah, Chinese name. So when we have something like this, you see, and we have another thing like this, so the fingerprint will do all this, and then it will perform all this function on it. Then later it might identify that, oh, it's actually saying it. So the same thing applies for n-gram fingerprint, the phonetics and code. So you can just read more about it if you want to get more knowledge on how all these things work together to do. So let's say this time we could have edited using the cluster, or we could have just changed the name, and just, so there's merge, select, and read cluster. So maybe I have applied fingerprints on it. So the fingerprint identifies some errors, but I'm not done. I want to identify more errors. Then I can merge the selected read cluster, then choose another keying function, use it, then read cluster. Or if I think the merge I'm using, so you can even select, because this one there's just one problem. We just saw just two cluster size. We could have gotten even thousands and millions of cluster size. So if we think that we are satisfied with this, we can just click on the merge selected and close. So when you just click on the merge selected, you see the MDPI, which has two variation, has now one variation. So that's basically yeah, everything involved. So the last thing is JSON. So you see, we've performed a lot of tasks on this data. So let's say you have a new task, a very similar project to it, and there's no need to do everything from scratch, because this thing takes a lot of time to clean it, and also a lot of observation, a lot of stuff to do, a lot of technical things to consider and stuff. So if you don't want to do all these things or repeat these steps again, you can easily extract whatever you are doing. So when you click on extract, there's an option here to select which one you want to use on it. So when you select everything here, this is a JSON code. So you can easily just Control+C, just copy it. So when you just copy it, you just close it. So if maybe say so easy way, if I click on a create project, it takes us to our initial data we have. So if I want to apply all these function on my new function, I just come to the apply function. I'll just paste my JSON code here. When I paste my JSON code, I'll just click on perform operation, and you can see all the function I had performed previously on my previous data will also be performed on this data set. So these are some of these advantages, or some of these powerful tools in OpenRefine that enable us to refine data. And I think basically that's all. So if you want to like read more about, or read more about this refining stuff, you can just go to here. The link is even here, docs.openrefine.org. So when you go to docs.openrefine.org, you have like the user manual. So the user manual contain like deep information which you might learn a lot of stuff probably I didn't mention in this video. So you can see installing, running, starting a project, exploring, transforming data, everything here, every information you need here is available in this link, and you can explore it to understand various ways of refining the data. Someone will ask me now, I'm done with my table, what next? So when you are done, you need to export this data and probably apply your R language or your Python language on it to create your nice data chart or your nice chart that will be used for your analysis. So in that case, in order to export, just click on export here. Just click on the export here. So the export, you can export it as a TXV, as a CSV, as an HTML table, Excel, just like how we imported these various forms. So this OpenRefine also gives us an opportunity to also export these data in any form you want to. So you can export this as a CSV, as I said. We can even export this as a Google Sheet or whatever thing you want to export into. So basically, this is all about Google, and I hope this video has been very useful to you. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.